Hello everyone, welcome to Module 3's overview video. The purpose of this video is to introduce you to the assignments that you'll be responsible for this week, as well as some of the information that you'll need to complete those assignments. So this week we have two chapters to read in our ebook. The textbook is World Prehistory and the Anthropocene. Chapter 7 is the first chapter. This is titled Understanding Human Decision Making. And we're going to understand this topic in terms of the evolutionary success and outcomes of human decision making. So this emphasizes an ecological notion of what resulted in the deep past in terms of human decision making, the ecological factors that contributed to those decisions, and the impacts on the ecology thereafter the decisions were made. So this body of theory is known as human behavioral ecology, or HBE, and that's going to be an ongoing theoretical framework for this textbook, as well as this chapter. We're going to be revisiting the importance of context in relation to absolute dating techniques this week as well, and we'll be looking at a diversity of cultural groups again, looking at groups that are partaking in foraging strategies or farming strategies in a range of different environments. Foragers today have been pushed to the margins of the more inhabitable regions of the world, the more difficult locations to live in. But at one point in human history, and actually for the majority of human existence, foraging was the food subsistence strategy that was taken up by our ancestors. So this week we'll be looking at a couple of different groups that have used foraging strategies and continue to do so, in particular the Netsilik Inuit in the Arctic regions of the world, as well as some Plains Indian groups, looking at their mobility strategies for acquiring food resources. Speaking of food, this is going to be the topic of Chapter 8, the second chapter this week. Producing Food is the title of this chapter. Domestication and the landscape of domestication is what's going to be the big focus of this chapter, particularly food domestication and how this played a role, not just in the changing of other species on the planet, but ours as well. We'll be looking at the mechanics of domestication in terms of the decisions that are being made, what's required, and the actual physical aspects of that domestication process for particular plant species. But also we'll be looking at the impact on the surrounding environment, as well as our own societies, and how this produced a change for us in how we conduct ourselves within our societies and between societies. So we'll be looking at some examples from the Middle East as well as China to see these effects. And we're going to be paying attention to the spread of new habitats, these being fields, which consisted of a mosaic of weedy plants early on, and this helped contribute to early agricultural domestication to develop in various places around the world, in which domestication popped up at different times and in different locations, distinct to those regions, particular in China, particular in the Near East, or whether it's in Mexico, the Andes, the lower tropical lowlands of the northern South America, or even in southern Ohio and Kentucky, in the southeastern regions of the United States, we see the domestication of plants and animals going about their own trajectory. Again, not just plants we'll be looking at, but also animals domestication in that chapter. So I'll give you a rundown a little bit more in detail of what these chapters consist of in our reading overview, but just know chapter 7 and 8 are what you'll be needing for this week's assignments. So this week's assignments include a part 3 discussion. This is pertaining to discussion 3 that we began last week. So you'll watch the recap video that I have up for you there in that assignment page. And this is going to, again, be taking a look at the stakeholder relationships in the past. The next assignment for this week will be workbook 4. This is titled Weedy Habits and Weedy Habitats. So this is going to help us think about the ways that archaeologists analyze plant remains. We'll be looking at various plant parts and see what they tell us about the types of plants that they belong to. And in particular, its evolution from their naturally occurring progenitors that existed before domestication, and see how that changed into their domesticated forms and how these are found in archaeological contexts, looking at the many ways which they developed for us to eat today. The next assignment will be quiz number 3. This is also over producing food, so it's going to be pulling largely from chapter 8. The questions will be about the process of agricultural domestication and how archaeologists are interpreting that process. And then the last assignment for this week will be an essay. This is essay number 1. This is about Netsilik foraging adaptations and taphonomy. So for this assignment, you'll have to be at first watching a video. This video is called At the Caribou Crossing. There's 2 parts to this video. You really only need part 1 to complete the assignment, but part 2 is as an optional assignment, part of the assignment. It's going to give you more detail and help you in your process of writing your essay. It might be a little bit of an extra time commitment, but again, it's going to give you more detail and help you along the way. Now, this is a silent film. It really is a movie, not really a talkie. And so we see that this is also going to be taking place in the Arctic regions of the world. And I want us to look at this movie with a bit of a human behavioral ecology lens. And it'll be interesting because it represents a good ethnographic example of what foraging looks like and what these strategies consist of. So it's rich in content and requires some interpretation on your part. So let's be thinking about some questions like what tools are being used, what are the uses of the carabao, what kinds of material remains might we find from this activity as archaeologists, and what do you think the Netsilik do when they aren't nearby or crossing the rivers? How were they able to distribute their food? How were they able to store it? What ways were they processing it so that they could, in fact, eat it and use this as food? And we're also wanting to think about taphonomy, which is the process of degradation and decomposition of organic materials after their lifespan is over, and the sorts of factors that are involved in the decision making of the Netsilik in trying to procure food around the knowledge of organic materials and their food likely degrading over time. How is it that this is something that is combated and adapted to? So in this essay, you're required to write about 1.5 pages. The prompt for this essay will be found on the assignment posting caption, as well as a rubric for how I will grade this assignment. So if you're wanting to know more about what is being asked of you, what's going to get you a good grade, be sure to read all of the assignment posting caption. Okay, so that's all I have for you in terms of an overview for this week. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me on Carmen Messenger. Thank you.